This man has just committed a mass slaughter, ruthlessly running over more than 50 innocent civilians in a horrifying attack. The chase for the mass murderer had begun, but he quickly fled into a residential area. Little did he know, his every move was being recorded, setting the stage for the largest manhunt the town had ever witnessed.
Hands up! Put your hands where I can see them! Put your hands!
Darrell Brooks had a long criminal history dating back to age 17. He was clearly a troubled individual with a volatile psyche, accumulating charges for domestic abuse, endangerment, and even being listed as a sex offender. But everything seemed to culminate in 2021 at Waukesha's Grand Christmas Parade comeback after the pandemic. Darrell Brooks decided to ruin countless lives by unleashing his blind rage on the parade. Around 4 p.m., neighbors reported a heated argument coming from Darrell's home. He and his girlfriend had a toxic relationship, often erupting into fiery disputes like this. The argument, typically revolving around their troubled relationship, escalated into physical violence against his girlfriend, leading to one of the most senseless and violent acts Wisconsin had ever seen. 30 minutes after the altercation, Darrell left his home, speeding through familiar streets toward downtown Waukesha. At 4:39 p.m., he reached Main Street and drove straight through a barricade into the Christmas parade at 64 kilometers per hour. In just 5 seconds, he claimed the lives of the first 4 victims, all members of the Dancing Grannies dance group. He kept accelerating and steering deliberately to hit as many people as possible, including an 8-year-old child just moments later. By this point, police and bystanders began reacting, trying to clear the crowd, warn others about the attack, and find a way to stop Darrell. Thankfully, their efforts had some effect, and only one more life was lost.
Robert 277.
What's up? Hands up!
Hands back! Whoa,
whoa, whoa!
Hands up! Hands up!
Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Do it now!
Hey, take them one of the hospitals.
Put it on your stomach!
Robert 277, are you on?
You got something with your name on it, man?
No. Okay, lads. Cooperate with us. Okay. I just use the microphone to call for a minute, that's all.
Oh, okay.
That's what I need you.
If everything turns out to be on the up and up, life will be good, and you'll be on your way, all right?
Go ahead and take a seat for me, Darrell.
With Darrell in custody, officers initiated an interrogation, but it was soon paused as the FBI stepped in to take over the case. A former detective reviewed the interrogation, offering detailed insights into its critical moments and what they revealed. Detectives already had substantial evidence. They knew Darrell was the driver, not the car's owner, and had found the keys in his pocket. What made the interrogation particularly interesting was that Darrell appeared unaware of the reason for his arrest, as the police never explicitly mentioned the parade massacre. The nearly 5-hour session wasn't about determining his guilt. They were already confident in that. Instead, it aimed to observe how Darrell would react, how much he would lie, and whether he would express any remorse for his actions.
Oh, face that way.
It's the shoulders.
There you go. All right, all yours.
Well, you can drop your ass now, man. Thanks, appreciate it.
Holy shit. How long you been out of work?
See, when did I get locked up? Just a few months.
Anything to do with the pandemic that's been hitting?
Yeah, that's the reason why,
Yeah, I bet.
It made me smooth off. I got stuff lined up, though, so Yeah, like what?
I'm probably gonna go back. I was working at a sheet metal place, so I'm probably gonna go back there.
And do you stay at is it your mom? You talked about your mom. Is it her address you stay at now?
She owns the house.
She owns the house.
She doesn't stay there anymore, but she owns the house.
Okay.
She has her own house.
I think we put your mom as emergency.
The detectives noticed the first sign of Brooks' willingness to lie. The severe shoulder pain he had complained about earlier vanished within minutes of the interrogation, and he could move his arm effortlessly, a detail later used in court. His tendency to lie became clearer as detectives continued to mislead him.
When you left Stephanie's,
It was still daytime.
it was still daytime?
Yes.
Okay. Were there still a lot of people out?
It was still people out.
Okay.
It was still people out. Not a lot in that area, but it was a lot of people out. And it was, like I said, it was older couples walking down the street. It was younger people walking down the street. People
Was like an event or something was going on?
I don't know, but it kind of seemed like it was a lot, like it was something going on to where it was vibrant.
How long was it between leaving Stephanie's and those cops yelling at you at the door of that guy's house?
Was it dark when they yelled at you?
Yeah, by the time they came, it was dark.
Okay.
But we had been sitting out there. For a minute, me and the guy.
To find how long? Estimate.
20, 30 minutes maybe. We were sitting right there, just like this, just sitting on the porch. While I called me an Uber. I called the Uber. I said, look, man, I let him know. I said, look, I ain't trying to rob you or nothing like that. Because when I knocked on the door, he kind of was like, whoa. I'm like, look, I don't got no weapons. I'm not trying to break in your house. I'm not trying to rob you.
Darrell had clearly put significant thought into his defense, attempting to provide numerous specific details. However, officers had substantial evidence against him and didn't believe a word he said. As the interrogation went on, Darrell kept lying until the police finally had enough.
Let me ask you this, Darrell. So you weren't out in Waukesha Saturday, just Sunday.
Yes, sir.
You're a part in the investigation. There's a lot of parts, right? Any investigation, there's people we talk. Well, this domestic abuse thing I'm telling you about, right?
Okay.
You talked about being a religious man.
I can do better.
Yeah.
I can definitely do better.
We all could.
I'm not.
We all could.
No,
That's why.
Yesterday was a mistake. I should have just freaking watched the game and just went home.
That's the thing. What do they teach us in Christianity, Darrell? That they teach us that we're broken, right? We're sinners. You're a father. You got 3 children, 18, 14, and 7?
Yes, sir.
All right, you got a mama that raised you well, and a God you believe in.
Absolutely.
All right, and all of them are, here's the thing they'll all want, is to tell that you're telling the absolute whole truth and nothing but the truth, right?
Absolutely.
I just have concerns if I fact check that Darrell's not telling me the truth. You don't have a car, so Marcus had to bring you out. You don't own a car, your mom doesn't own a car, right? So why did we find you with a car key in your pocket?
It wasn't in my pocket. I don't even know where they said that was laying on the ground.
The car keys found in Darrell's pocket were a critical piece of evidence, proving he had been driving despite his claims to the contrary. Cornered, Darrell became increasingly desperate to convince the officers of his innocence. However, the investigators, thoroughly prepared, were ready to take a new approach in hopes of getting him to confess.
It's yours. It's your car key. I'm trying to be as open and honest with you as I can be. And I'm not calling you a terrible man. I'm not saying you were out yesterday hunting, and just let me finish. But you did not walk to that house. You did not walk to that house. You did not come here in a tan Kia. You got a key in your pocket. Your car, your mom's name. For the love of God, Marcus. For yourself, for your family, you know what happened yesterday. For the people, tell me what happened.
Well, what?
With the car.
What am I being
With your mom's car. You're driving goofy, people called in, you drove out of there in your mom's car, the red car, you're driving a little silly, probably because you're pissed. You met up with Erica in the car at the park. She got in, you talked, and what you're telling me seems pretty consistent, that there was nothing physical.
I didn't put my hands on her or nothing.
But you met her in the car.
Tim, what's going on, man?
Asking you a question.
You
were out there driving kind of crazy. Some people said you were driving kind of crazy.
Darrell was now cornered with little room to deny the evidence. Under pressure from the detectives, he eventually admitted to driving at the time. Shifting tactics, he attempted to gain sympathy by blaming his girlfriend and his struggles with alcohol addiction.
Erica, she's a sweetheart until she gets that alcohol.
The alcohol's the problem.
Then you all type of jazz and I have somebody touch you and I'm gonna keep my daughter away from you, and even my mom doesn't even like her around when she's drinking.
I've never been with anyone as bad as what you're saying right there, but I think he can attest to it. We've all
Man probably look like he been through it with some chicks, man.
You know.
So Darrell, what were you thinking when you went driving through this parade?
What am I facing? I don't have no problem talking with you guys.
You got people injured that had to go to the hospital.
So they're saying I injured somebody, or you're saying I injured somebody. So I'm looking at what, reckless endangerment?
At the very least, yeah.
The very least.
People got hurt. That's reckless endangerment. I don't know exactly what they're going to classify it. Yeah, people had legs broken.
Endangerment's where you may have hurt somebody by your actions. You did hurt somebody by your actions. You wanted information from us. We're sharing.
I want you to watch and see what's in it. Yeah, it's a good point. It's information sharing.
Why do you want me to see that card? Why?
Because I think it's important.
Why is it important? Is it to make, like, what is it?
Why don't you want to look?
Everybody knows what was going on.
Those are children right there. Those are kids. See that little kid right there? You gonna look at it? You're too hurt?
Yeah.
Emotionally? Don't do that?
The most shocking part of the interrogation came when Darrell learned what had actually happened to the victims. He never asked about their condition or if anyone had died, likely because he felt no remorse and was focused solely on himself. By this point, the detectives had achieved their main goal, getting Darrell to admit he was driving and assessing whether he showed any remorse. The unusually long interrogation served to reinforce the strong evidence they already had, and to capture more footage demonstrating to the jury that Darrell lacked any remorse. That's why they allowed him to lie and reveal himself as selfish and cruel as possible. During his trial, Darrell would only strengthen that image by choosing to represent himself. This led to one of the most outrageous and infamous cases on the internet, with Darrell shouting, screaming, and even making threats throughout the proceedings. His frequent legal missteps further destroyed any chance of leniency. To begin the trial, Detective Jay Carpenter took the stand, ready to share extensive insights from their brief interrogation.
You interviewed the defendant, Darrell Brooks, on November 21st, 2021 at approximately 11 o'clock p.m. Do you recall that?
Objection. It's being called that name for the record.
Objection is overruled.
Yes, I do
Grounds
recall
for the
that.
overrule.
Not relevant.
Yeah, it is relevant.
What observations did you make during this clip about the use of his right arm?
Both his arms would come out like this and move. To me, what a person would do when they're normally conversing. It would seem unusual to make those movements if he was in fact in as much pain as he was claiming to us he was in.
Last night, we asked for State's Exhibit 81 to be admitted into evidence, which is the defendant's statement provided to Detective Carpenter and Detective Stern on November 21st of last year.
Objection, I didn't provide any statement on the 21st.
Jury will disregard the statement by Mr. Brooks. He is not testifying, therefore his statements are not evidence.
And my objection should be noted for the record.
You can hear Darrell repeatedly objecting throughout the trial. His legal knowledge clearly seemed to come from movies and TV shows. Unfortunately for him, objections need a valid legal basis to be sustained by the judge. Darrell failed to provide legitimate reasons for his objections, leading most of them to be overruled. As a result, the prosecution was able to proceed without much interruption.
I believe that these photographs are designed to make a suggestion to the jury that Erica Patterson is a bad mom. I think that that's what the defendant is trying to do. If we go down that road, we would be forced to counter that claim by pointing out that not only does the defendant not live with the child in question, he doesn't live with any of the other children that he has. He impregnated Erica Patterson when she was a minor in Nevada, and for doing so, he was convicted of statutory sexual seduction, pled guilty in March of 2007 to that felony offense, and is a sex offender on the registry as a result. So if there's any causation that would lead to Erica Patterson being a bad mom, Mr. Brooks has a direct role in that causation.
And that's
Furthermore,
I object to that.
I'm not
because that's a lie.
Let him
Because at
finish.
the end of the day,
Let
if
him
we
finish,
gonna open the door
Mr.
on that. No,
Brooks.
since he want to make a record and not be accurate, so let's be accurate on the record. Since you think you know so much,
Once
so
again,
we can
Mr.
open the
Brooks
door
is
on.
being
We can
loud,
open the door on how old she told me she was. when we met.
interrupting.
We can ask
He's-
that question
he is
to him.
over the top
ask that?
animated
Do you
right
know
now.
that?
Mr. Brooks, I'm ordering you to sit down and to let the state
No,
finish.
I'm not going to sit here and let somebody be inaccurate on the record and lie on the record.
This was the pattern for most of the trial. The prosecution would present a point, and Darrell would become highly agitated, attempting to deny it with anger and lies. In one instance, when the prosecution brought up his status as a registered sex offender, Darrell reacted by claiming the girl had told him she was 18, as if that could excuse his actions. However, the most shocking and unprecedented moment of the trial came when the judge was forced to pause proceedings because she felt genuinely intimidated by Darrell's behavior.
So as long as the jury's out, we should probably discuss that.
So that had to be said. So it's defendant.
That's not how it was said.
That was how I said. You want to run the record back?
Mr. Brooks.
So I'm the only one. I got one.
Mr.
I got
Brooks.
one ear that work, and I heard that.
This
Come on,
is
man.
to benefit you so
No,
that
it's
you
not.
understand
Ain't none of
your
this to benefit
witness
me, so let's
has
be clear
a
about
prior
that.
record.
Your Honor, when I leave the table, I'm away from the courtroom and I have to elevate my voice.
So she had to
Alleged
elevate her
record
voice
of
just for
ableist
that.
Stop talking.
Come on, man. Like, I don't know who y'all be thinking y'all fooling. I accept the value in return for value this document.
One more interruption and you're going to be removed to the next courtroom.
That's what you want to do anyway. So can
Your
you
Honor,
tell,
I
can you
believe he
please-
has 7 prior criminal convictions, an OWI 4th from 2003, criminal trespass to dwelling from 2006.
Right, I need to take a break. This man right now is having a stare down with me. It's very disrespectful. He pounded his fist, frankly.
The judge showed remarkable patience throughout the trial, granting Darrell considerable leeway to ensure fairness. Despite this, he sabotaged his defense, even while trying to appear polite. For instance, he absurdly argued that his trial was unfair because he hadn't been allowed to confront the state of Wisconsin directly.
Not if I'm not allowed to face my accuser, Your Honor. My accuser in this matter would be the state of Wisconsin, with all
Sir,
due
I believe your
respect.
Sixth Amendment rights in that regard have been complied with.
I'm requesting a written judicial finding of fact and conclusion of law on this issue for the grounds that I just stated. I'm not being awarded the chance to face my accuser, which I should be awarded that.
Technically, Darrell wasn't entirely wrong. The Sixth Amendment grants him the right to confront those accusing him of a crime, in this case, the state of Wisconsin. However, his demand was physically impossible. The state is not a person or a witness in this case. He was allowed to cross-examine all relevant witnesses involved, meaning his rights were fully upheld. Darrell was simply grasping at absurd arguments, seemingly attempting to challenge the entire U.S. judicial system. His misunderstanding of the legal system became even clearer during his closing argument. Had he chosen to be represented by a lawyer, he might have avoided some charges or received a lighter sentence. Instead, he delivered a pitiful closing statement.
Good afternoon. It's been a long day. First off, I'd just like to start by letting you guys know that it's a lot of information that you guys should be privy to, I believe. You and you alone have the power. You and you alone decide what is truth and what isn't true. You should be informed that you have the power to nullify any law that you don't agree with.
Darrell wasn't entirely wrong here. It's true that a jury can nullify a law, but this is typically reserved for situations where the law in question is extraordinarily unusual, and the defendant's guilt is beyond any doubt. For example, Alaska has a law that prohibits whispering into someone's ear while they're moose hunting. In such a case, a jury might choose to nullify the law. Darrell Brooks delivered his 50-minute closing argument, spending most of the time denying evidence and proclaiming his innocence. However, one moment stood out, revealing just how malicious he truly was.
It's hard to keep everything together emotionally. And honestly, I don't believe that I have any more tears left. It's been a hard year for the families, mostly that opens the door to talk about forgiveness for a little bit. With every healing process, there comes a forgiving process. It's not an easy thing for anyone.
Darrell tried to distract the jury by claiming it had been a tough year for the victims and anyone present at the parade. However, in reality, it was his own crime that made this year the most difficult for the victims. The jury deliberated for less than a day before returning with a verdict, finding him guilty on all 76 charges. Darrell was ready to face sentencing, but before that, the judge spoke directly with him.
Frankly, Mr. Brooks, no one is safe from you. This community can only be safe if you are behind bars for the rest of your life. The community is not safe from your violent and criminal conduct unless you are in custody. You left a path of destruction, chaos, death, injury, confusion, and panicked as you drove 7 or so blocks through the Christmas parade, never once stopping or seemingly caring about the wake of carnage that you left. 4 of those blocks were turned into a scene that frankly is no different than a war zone. This court is imposing a life sentence without the possibility or eligibility for extended supervision. 1 life sentence for Virginia Sorensen. 1 life sentence for Leanna Owen. 1 life sentence for Tamara Durand. 1 life sentence for Jane Kulik. 1 life sentence for Bill Huspel. And 1 life sentence for Jackson Sparks.
Darrell Brooks was sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, meaning he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. However, this sentence cannot erase the pain and loss suffered by the victims and their families. 6 lives were taken, dozens more were injured, and the Waukesha community will forever bear the scars of this tragic event. The story of Darrell Brooks serves as a cautionary tale for all of us about the importance of controlling anger, resolving conflicts peacefully, and valuing the lives of those around us. Let the memory of the victims of the Waukesha massacre inspire us to create a safer, more humane world.